You're listening to the School of Hard Knock Knocks podcast with me, Maury Morgan.
Ladies and gentlemen, your next comedian.
Shouldn't drink on an empty head, you know that, don't you?
That is the shittiest heckle I have ever heard in my life.
Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
What's a bucket list?
You have dangerously underprepared yourself for the shit that is about to get real.
Some people seek greatness. Others have greatness thrust upon them. On a stage in Narrabri, New South Wales. This is the yarn of Dane Simpson, one moment a DJ, then next a supporting act for veteran comedian Kevin Kropinyeri, and a short time later the Deadly Funny New South Wales winner. Dane's success on the comedy circuit has been swift, which highlights this man's raw talent. In this School of Hard Knock Knocks podcast, we talk about Dane Simpson's family and Aboriginal influences, touring Australia and making popular YouTube videos with his mates and partner that have helped boost his stand-up career. And if you like what you hear and you'd like to get into stand-up comedy yourself, well, the June course was sold out in Melbourne, but the July 23 to 27, also in Melbourne, is filling up now. Be sure to book up quickly. In the meantime, here's Dane Simpson. Dane, how are you? It's Maury here.
Yeah, good. And how are you?
Very good, sir. Very good. Thank you for your time today. And it's actually quite an important day in the Aboriginal calendar, well, the recent calendar, the 10th anniversary of the Cathy Freeman Foundation.
Yep.
Which is a coincidence, to be honest, and I only realised when I took my son to school this morning and had to run back and get his yellow, his house colour, because he's making up the flag, the Aboriginal flag, and he's yellow, so he's kind of critical to the centre of that flag.
And did you break any records when you ran back?
Thankfully, I literally live a stone's throw from the school, so yeah, it wasn't much of an issue. But so today's the Stomp Out the Gap. Yeah, the 10th anniversary of the Cathy Freeman Foundation. So
that's really cool. Things like that are really important. You see them all through because I live in Wagga Wagga in New South Wales, so rugby league is a big thing, and we have the Indigenous round, which is only like a couple of weeks ago as well, which is Closing the Gap.
Yep.
Indigenous round, and they bring out all the Guernseys and all that like Aboriginal style Guernseys.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I think it's really cool that we're sort of shining a light on those kinds of issues.
That's fantastic. Fantastic. My son, I mean, I'm of the generation that, you know, we still had in primary school both Advance Australia Fair and God Save the Queen that we sang in primary school.
Yeah, wow.
So slightly older than you.
That's incredible. Yeah, my mum, she teaches like a lot of cross-cultural education stuff, which is like informing people about Aboriginal issues, and I suppose it's things that we don't teach in our history in schools, you know. So she goes back and when she did work, she's retired now, but she did work at the uni, and I think it was important for a lot of school teachers to go through cross-cultural education where they learn about Aboriginal people, past government policies that affected Aboriginal people and whatnot. Yeah, so having a mum like that, I absolutely grew up knowing a lot about not only sort of traditional sort of Aboriginal stuff, like samples of it through my dad, through Walgett, but my mum being quite an education person about all of the contemporary Aboriginal issues.
Well, that's great, and we've done a great job in completely throwing up the order of questions, so that's good. You're talking about family. I'd like to keep it on there. Now, this is a comedy podcast. You are a comedian, Dane. I want to emphasise that to the listeners of Aboriginal background, and you just talked about your mum being influential in your heritage.
Yep.
What about your parents and your extended family in your comedy?
Yeah.
Are they funny people?
Absolutely, yeah. I grew up in a family. They're all entertainers. They're all a little bit silly. Mm-hmm. We all do things like, especially like in Walgett. My dad lived there when I was a kid, so we'd go to visit my dad. My mum lived in Wagga. But when we go up there, we'd like hang around like the fire bucket out the back. Yep. Someone bust out a guitar. We start singing, cook a little feed on the fire. Just having a laugh. Yep. I think Walgett's one of those places too where you could tell the best yarn, and then you try and top that yarn with that somebody else has told, and then whoever's got the funniest story sort of, I don't know, wins in a way.
Walgett's only got about 2,500 people, so you must be repeating a lot of yarns.
Yeah, well that's the thing.
Heard that one, Dane.
Yeah, exactly. And I even take a couple to the stage, and what's really strange, because I thought that I might even get a little bit of, hey, I heard that story before, but it's always a, hey, I heard you tell that yarn what they reckon of it. Like,
Yeah, right.
people are happy to get sort of like a story out there and just seeing what are other people's reactions, which is awesome.
Yeah, right.
And then some people just haven't heard the yarn before, so it's cool to sort of spread that kind of story around.
Yeah, right. So which town or city, well, I guess Wagga Wagga's a city, isn't it? Walgett, definitely a town. Yeah. Which one gives you the most material for your stand-up comedy?
It's a little from both, realistically, because I grew up in Wagga Wagga. I've been in Wagga since I was, say, about 5 or 6. And a lot of families sort of came down from Walgett to Wagga. Mm-hmm. And I think just knocking around with everyone, we just sort of have a laugh at each other. We're one of those families where if somebody does something wrong, they have to dog themselves in first. Otherwise, the rest of the family will sort of just give it to them.
Right.
Which is fun, and we all just have a laugh about our shortcomings, which is just, I think, a great way to sort of grow up. It just makes things really family friendly, and just everybody's being silly. Nobody's taking anything too seriously.
Yeah, right. Now, you said your family is multi-talented. You dabbled in music as well. Did you start in music before you got into comedy?
Yeah, I did. So all of my family are entertainers in a way. So some of them are singers, some of them are just sort of larrikins and mucking around. I got into music. I still have a band. A band is such a strong term. But me and my dad, we have a muck around sort of gig where we just sing some karaoke songs. Just me and him, we just go down to the pub or wherever and we sing some songs together, and people just come along and really enjoy it, because I think he's a bit of an idiot and he's a bit silly and does some dumb things. Yeah. For example, he puts the microphone all the way in his mouth and starts humming away the song if he doesn't know the lyrics, and it's quite silly to come to the show. So we do things like that. But when I was 16, I was a DJ. And that's where I first sort of started off with entertaining. Right. And doing some of the smaller sort of music festivals going. I started off in weddings, and then it sort of developed, and I started to do some of the smaller music festivals going down that East Coast. Yeah, right. Sort of thing, which is really cool.
And so when was it, do you remember the day, I'm assuming you would, it would have been a pretty traumatic moment, when you did your first stand-up gig?
Yeah, actually, so I was knocking around outback New South Wales with a comedian called Kevin Kropinyeri, who's just an amazing comedian. So he was doing some shows. He needed somebody to knock around with him and set up the audio equipment. And because I was a DJ, got me to come along. Right. I set it all up for him because we were travelling long hours. So from Wagga to places like Burke, it's about 9 hours drive. We're just sitting in the car, having a laugh, and similar to Walgett, we just started telling yarns, and then I'd tell him a story, and then he'd tell me one, and then I'd tell him one. Yeah, right. And then he said to me, "That is a very funny yarn, Buzz. You should tell that before I go on stage tonight." And we're in a town called Narrabri, Crossings Theatre, which is there. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, absolutely, because, we're in the car, and I had all the confidence in the world at the time. Yeah. But then we got to the side stage, and he said to me, "Go on, Buzz, go out and tell your story." And I was like, "Nah, I'm not doing that," because it all just became real, and my guts flipped, and I'm just like, "No, I can't do that." And then he physically pushed me out on stage, just pushed me from side stage into the middle of the stage. Wow. People were there. And then he just grabbed the microphone and just started announcing me from backstage. "Ladies and gentlemen, Dane Simpson." And just whacked you in a situation where you sort of, it was pretty much, it's the absolute equivalent of being thrown in the deep end. Like there is, that is the strongest metaphor. So I'm just on stage and I don't know, I felt like I ran like a kilometre. Yeah. But I've only walked, 3 metres to get the microphone in the middle of the stage, so out of breath. But I did 2 stories. I think I did 3 even. And they all got laughs, even though the delivery was terrible. I can't remember it, but I'm sure that I remember being out of breath. Mm. But I know that the stories were funny. Yeah. So they, the content. And they've always gotten a laugh, the stories that we tell at the pub in Walgett or, sitting around at home. And they always get a laugh. So I knew that they'd be funny. And once the crowd was starting to light up and really laughing and having a good time, that was it. That was when the bug bit me.
There you go. So some people seek greatness, others have greatness thrust upon them or kicked into them, so to speak.
Absolutely. Yeah. Kev was just doing that real, like he just had a proud look. Like it just reminded me of like Mr. Miyagi at the end of
nice.
Karate Kid.
And he realised he now has a warm-up act.
I think, well, that was absolutely it. Yeah.
He's like, you've made his life a lot easier now. He doesn't have a cold audience when he walks out there in the future.
Absolutely.
And what year was that?
So that was just before we did Deadly Funny in 2015.
Yeah, right.
So only a couple of years ago.
You went from a real amateur, if I can be as blunt as that,
Absolutely.
to 2015. You won the state final for Deadly Funny in Sydney.
Yeah.
In Redfern.
Yeah. Which was...
Tell us that journey. How did you go from a kilometre walk on stage and sweating your balls out and then getting, winning state champs?
Yeah, so that was mind-blowing. We did, so when we were touring around, after Narrabri, I think we had maybe 3 more places to do. I went out and did a few of the jokes and started to get a little bit more confident as each of the acts were. Also, we had long drives in between.
Yeah.
So Kevin could just really drum it home. With the next gig, bros, what you should be looking at is, not so nervous of a walk or you need to hold the microphone with confidence, and just little things like that. So each of those little shows, he just encouraged me to do a little bit better for the next show. And then he told me about Deadly Funny, so I didn't even know that Deadly Funny existed. And he said, you've got to enter it. So as soon as I got back home, I went online and entered the competition.
Yeah, right.
And there were some workshops run by Andy Saunders, which were in Sydney. I drove to Sydney and went and did the workshops, and he's just an amazing comedian.
Yep.
And that helped me a lot. So just with stage presence, also going through your jokes, getting a little bit more professional each time. Mm-hmm. And then my mates in Wagga heard about it, and we're always looking at having a laugh. So we just had a dinner one night and just said, let's do your routine, because I was going to Deadly Funny competition the next day.
Yeah.
And it was super embarrassing, but because, it's your mates.
In front of your mates, yeah.
You're sort of performing in front of your friends. Yeah, and we went through the routine. They helped me out with a lot of ideas, saying, hey, you need to be a little bit more, when you're on stage, just move around a little bit, be just, a little bit more active.
Yeah, right.
And I went to the competition the next morning and ended up winning it in Sydney and doing all the things that my mates sort of encouraged me to do.
There you go. Excellent support. Did you meet Matt Ford at that competition?
I ended up meeting Matt Ford when I went to the Nationals in Melbourne.
Mm-hmm. Is he from Brisbane? Is Matt Ford from Brisbane?
Yeah, he's from Brizzy, and he was part of the Aboriginal Comedy All-Stars at the time, but he was also part of the showcase. So he was somebody who had came through competitions at the Melbourne International Comedy Festival. Yep. So they had a bit of a showcase at the Deadly Funny finals. And
you partnered with him, and you went on a bit of a road show with him last year, and also you did the Melbourne International Comedy Festival this year with him as well. Yeah,
so from the Deadly Funny, I come back home, it was great to sort of have a little bit of background in comedy and having all that knowledge. And I started up the Wagga Comedy Club, and just getting some comedians to come up from Melbourne to sort of headline that. Mm-hmm. But because I was, at the time, the only comedian in Wagga.
Yeah, right.
So there was the only stand-up comedian. There's some people who come from Wagga who are great entertainers, and they were doing some comedy in music and whatnot, but they always moved to Melbourne or Sydney or whatnot.
Yeah, that's right.
So I was the only one here, and so it was weird. So I wanted to, and also I didn't have like a sand pit to practice my material. Mm. So I started that Wagga Comedy Club. We got some amateur comedians to try and try and do like a workshop where we go through everybody's stuff and see if it's funny or not, and try and improve it. So that gave me a little bit of a sandpit to sort of practice some jokes at. I also started up bringing some comedians to come to Wagga and doing some shows. So I had Kev come back again and do a show called the Blackout Comedy Night. Mm-hmm. where we were sort of raising issues similar to the Closing the Gap stuff, raising issues about Aboriginal people, but also having a bit of fun while we're doing it, and having an Aboriginal comedian come in and sort of be providing that sort of cultural sort of fun and entertainment.
Where's he from?
Kev, he's from Swan Hill.
Okay.
Or Ralcan, yeah, he's from the Mission over that way in South Australia. And he came over. He's such a great guy. He's always helping out anybody and everyone, especially young comedians that are looking at sort of, or comedians that are just starting off.
Yeah, right. Was that all last year, 2016?
That was in 2015 at the end of the year.
Yeah, right.
And then late 2015. When he came and did a show in Wagga, I opened for him, and he just went, "Whoa, your jokes and stuff have really grown.
Yeah,
can't believe sort of how you've sort of climbed learn how to sort of structure your jokes a little bit better. Did you want to come on tour next year?" So I was like, absolutely. So with the Aboriginal Comedy All-Stars.
Yep. And if you had an amazing amount of shows, was it 74 shows that you did?
Yeah, we did 74 shows across the country.
That's incredible.
That was just huge. And just, there is nothing that makes you better than stage time.
Yeah, right.
If you're growing as a comedian, and especially like new and different crowds from across the country, there's nothing better than that.
Yeah. Well, 74 is amazing. I mean, just getting 74 shows and different audiences too. So you were touring. So from how far, how many kilometres did you travel in that 74 dates?
Oh, wow. We definitely went from one end of the country to the other. We didn't do Tassie. That was our only place. So other than that, we did all the states.
Yep.
A lot of regional areas. Yeah, they more or less flew us into the capital city.
Yep.
And then we drive from there to some of the regional cities, which is awesome for me.
So you would have seen fair.
Yeah, all of the country.
Yeah, right.
I've never really been around before. The most I've been, because I was born in Bundaberg. That's where my mum's family's from.
Yep.
And that's really it. Like. Yeah, this sort of East Coast.
Well, did you find much of a difference in terms of comedy and your jokes are about your family Aboriginal heritage? Did you find that carried right across the country, or was there unique areas or pockets where people had different experiences in their background?
Yeah, there was a few times where I sort of changed it up a little bit because I didn't know if some of the jokes were really going to land. Particularly being just about, I do a joke, and especially because I've got some videos online, which sort of helped to make people sort of, hey, I know that comedian, I've seen him on Facebook, sort of thing. And it's a song that I made called Chips and Devon. Which is about Devon, the
gravy. Is that the gravy one as well?
Lunch, yeah.
Yeah, I saw that. That's very funny.
It's a lunch meat.
Okay.
Devon, and apparently, and I didn't know this until we were touring around, but Devon changes its name.
Oh.
So as you go around the country, and as you hit South Australia, it's called Fritz. And in Western Australia, it's called something else. It changes its name again, which is really strange.
Yep.
In outback New South Wales, and especially in a lot of Aboriginal communities, it's the go-to sort of thing. So you can go and get some chips, some hot chips from the shop, and you grab some Devon, and you just make a sandwich from there, and that's all the food groups, realistically.
Oh, the word Devon just sounds exotic. I don't know. Yeah. Lunch meat, Devon. Yeah, I thought it was like when I saw the video, I couldn't quite tell what it was that you had there, apart from the gravy and the chips, and I thought it kind of looked like a very expensive cheese or something. Huh?
Oh, right. But it's little jokes like that we have that I didn't go around the country. And because I got so many views on that video, I was like, oh, yeah, people enjoyed it.
Yeah, right. That actually leads me to my next question, which is your videos. We've interviewed a number of stand-up comedians on the School of Hard Knock Knocks podcast, and one in particular, Evan Hocking, he does a lot of video little skits on video, puts it through Facebook and YouTube to get his name out there, and it's actually working quite well. He, like yourself, started only quite recently, like yourself about 2 years ago, as a sort of professional comedian. Yeah, so how many videos have you got out there, and how is the videos that you've produced, which look very professional, how have they affected your stage time?
Yeah, there's nothing better than sort of getting some content out. I think I've got, I don't know, surely I've got close to maybe 20 videos. So it's not that many, but it's a fair few.
That's good.
In the 2 years. I've got a lot of mates in Wagga who just jump on and say, hey, what can I do? What can we do? How can we sort of help each other? So one of my mates is a great video man. I don't know how to say that differently.
Videography, are they? Videographer?
Videographer, yeah. And he does a lot of the filming for me, Raj Jordan. He's just an incredible sort of artistic sort of bloke. And I tell him some of the jokes that I've got, and he goes, yep, cool. Yep. I think I've got an idea of how to put this together.
Yeah, right.
And then we'll just sort of work on it. We talk to each other just about where we want the angles to come from or what music we want. Yep. And then the video sort of comes out, and it's sort of, we both are on the same level at the same time, at the end of the day, that it's exactly what I want to come out. But the thing is that there's some jokes that I do, and I think everybody does this. When you tell a story and somebody doesn't laugh at it, but you're just like, you had to be there.
Yeah, right.
You know? And I think, so I might do some jokes, and they wouldn't land on stage because they're not, it's one of those ones where you had to be there. You had to see it. So then I pocket that and I go, cool, let's make that into a sketch.
Was that like the bin day or bin night where you're nosy neighbour? I like that one.
Yes, absolutely. So that's a prime example.
So explain it to those who have not seen the video.
That's it. Yeah. So I've told one of my mates, and how that came about is in Walgett, there's always people who are going out and they're just, say if the neighbours come home and they're having a little bit of a row. You know, they might not have, things might not have gone to plan at lunchtime or whatever it is. But in the particular sketch that we're doing, the guy wants to go out with the guys and have a good time at the pub. And his girlfriend is saying, we've already made plans and now you're trying to break them and go out with your mates.
Yeah.
And so they're having a little bit of a heated discussion at the front of the house, and the neighbour comes out, and he's carrying his bin, and he's watching, and he's having a good old chuckle about these people, and he's, you know, being a bit of a sticky beak. And the guy's like, hey, you, stop bloody coming out here, putting your nose in our business. We're having our discussion. You go back in your house. And the neighbour's like, no, I'm just putting my bin out. And the guy's like, it's not even bloody bin night, all right? And so, yeah, and the neighbour's just like, yeah, it's not bin night either.
I like the pan shot of the whole street, and there's no bin on the curb at all, and it's like, yep, oops, that's him.
Yeah. And so, and like the story, I know that the story's funny, but it's one of those stories where it's like, yeah, you have to be there. So that's when I was like, cool, I've got an idea. Let's do this as a sketch. So we ended up filming that, and it worked out great. I loved how that sort of, again, yeah. So I was talking to the film guy, the videographer at the time, and I'm like, I want it to come from my point of view, so I look down the road and there's no. And then he's like, yep, all right, I've got a good idea.
And that couple in that show, are they a couple or are they just actors or friends? Or?
No, yeah, that's my partner and my brother that are in there.
Oh, okay. God, because I thought, I was about to call emergency services or something. They did a very good heated... Did they have a good laugh afterwards and a hug? Because they ripped into each other.
Yeah, which is really strange because, you know, Eleanor, my partner, we've never had an argument ever. So when I'm like, all right, let's go, and she just into him, I'm like, whoa, you're right. That's incredible. And then even the video guy is just looking at me like, you cop it. And I'm like, no, I've never seen this ever in my life.
Well, there you go. You have to have your brother around more often to let her vent. Sounds like a good plan.
Probably, yeah.
Oh, excellent. Well, Dane, you've given us a lot of content. At the end of the day, this is a podcast for people who are starting out in comedy, who are thinking that they're going to dabble. Maybe they've done a couple of shows, maybe a little bit like you. They've been kicked out on stage because of an uncle or a mate. They were only meant to carry the bags, and now they've got a budding stand-up comedy career. So they're listening to this, and I think you've given us a lot of great content. If people want to see you on stage in the next months or so, where can they do that? Where's Dane Simpson playing? Where can we see him?
I'm joining the Melbourne International Comedy Festival Roadshow crew. Mm-hmm. So in late June, around the 22nd of June, I jump on, and we're heading to Wollongong and Canberra, Nowra, places like that. I think we go down to Wodonga, Swan Hill, Bairnsdale. I think that's
it. Bairnsdale
cool.
Down Gippsland. That might have been the first time you've ever pronounced that little town. I gather.
I went there last year with the Aboriginal Comedy All Stars actually.
Oh, you did? Right.
Yeah, because I kept calling it Barnsdale, and then I got mixed up which one to call it.
Yeah, right. Well, you come from Wagga Wagga.
Yeah, exactly.
So you can't talk, mate. And if someone wants to get hold of you in between tour dates and they want to bring you into an event, have you do a show, how do they get in contact with you personally?
Just through Facebook is the best way. Just Facebook, there's Dane Simpson Comedian. But if you go to facebook.com/Dane Simpson Comedy, that can get me. Or even just via email at dane.simpson@gmail.com.
Perfect. Well, we'll put those both those links, your Facebook page and your email. Well, we may not put your email because I think you get a whole bunch of spam if we do that, but we'll definitely put your Facebook link, which is how I got in contact with you, so it obviously does work. Well, perfect, mate. Well, Dane, thank you very much. I very much enjoyed both your stand-up and your little videos that you produce. I do see a TV show somewhere down the path. I'm sure you've thought about that too.
Oh, that would be amazing. They're actually filming a movie in Wagga that I'm going to audition for on the weekend.
What role is it? Mass murderer?
I think there's a larrikin footy player.
There he is. Okay. Yeah, you're probably more suited to that. Yeah, you're a bubbly character. Right? You'd be the worst mass murderer. You know, or the most terrifying. Who knows? I mean, bubbly mass murderer. Jeez, actually, thinking about that, that's horrific.
Yeah.
Oh, mate. Well, Dane, thanks very much. It's been lovely talking to you. And we'll have a great day.
Excellent. You too.